In this demo, I'll show you how to install Rails 3 and create a Rails 3 app. I'll be building a simple application to manage meetups for a user group. Ruby on Rails is an open source web application framework that's optimized for programmer happiness and sustainable productivity. It lets you write beautiful code by focusing on convention over configuration. Before you can install Rails 3, you'll need three things. 1. A working Ruby install, 1.87 or 1.92 or higher. 2. A working database. Rails uses SQLite by default, but other databases will work too. 3. You'll need permission to install new gems. Start by installing the Rails gem. Once Rails is installed, I'll use the Rails new command to create our meetup application. The Rails tool lets us perform many common Rails actions. This will create a directory called meetups for our application and copy some standard files into it. I won't talk about all of these files and directories right now, but pay special attention to the directories and files in the app and config folders. The app directory contains your model, view, and controllers for this application. The config directory describes how to configure your Rails application. By default, Rails uses different configurations for development, testing, and production. Rails 3 also uses Bundler to manage its gem dependencies. Your application gems are specified in your gem file. Let's take a quick look. You can see I'm sourcing my gems from rubygems.org. This is also where you include any gems needed to run your application. You can include different gems in development than you do in testing or production. I'll leave this file alone and run bundle install to install the gems I'll need in my app. If you modify the gem file later, you'll need to run bundle install again. Believe it or not, our app is ready to run. Let's give it a try. Use the Rails server command to start your app. This starts up a Ruby web server running on our computer at localhost port 3000. The default homepage isn't much to look at, but it does have some useful links to Rails and Ruby documentation on the right. As well, it includes some steps for getting started with your application. One of the brilliant features of Ruby on Rails is its generators. Rails generators can create code automatically, given just a few simple details. I'll use the scaffold generator to quickly create some pages for our meetups. Before I run this, let's break this command down. I'm using the scaffold generator to create a new meetup resource with a name, location, and other attributes. The type of each attribute is specified after the colon. Most databases support string, decimal, float, text, date, time, and date-time attributes, but there are other types available as well. Like magic, this creates a meetup class in your model. There's not much to it for now, but it's enough to read the model's attributes from the database table I'll create in a moment. The scaffold generator also creates a meetup controller, which handles creating, reading, updating, and deleting the meetups. As well, this generated a database migration, which creates a new table to store your meetups in the database. You can apply these changes to your database using the Ruby Rake tool. You may also have noticed that the scaffolding created a set of test files to go with your new model and controller. Testing your Rails 3 app will be covered in another screencast. Now, let's take another look at the app. Go to localhost port 3000/meetups to see what's changed. The first thing you'll notice is a list of meetups. At first it will be empty. To add a meetup, click the new meetup link. The scaffold creates a simple form for you with fields for all the values you specified. After the meetup has been created, your new meetup is shown to you. Click the back link to return to the list of all meetups. You can show, edit, and destroy your new meetup using the links beside it. With one simple call to Rails generate scaffold, I've created the model, views, and controller needed to work with our meetups. Now, suppose I don't want to show the full notes beside every meetup. The HTML for this page is generated by the view. The view templates associated with the meetup controller are in the app views meetups directory. The list of meetups is generated in the meetup controller's index method. The view for this method is in the app views meetups index.html.erb. Let's remove the notes column. If I go back to our web browser and reload the page, you'll see the changes are already there. For developers coming from other web frameworks, being able to work without reloading a web server is a significant productivity boost. In this screencast, I've quickly created a simple Rails 3 application using the Rails scaffold generator. As you gain experience with Rails, you'll use Rails generate scaffold less and start to use other generators more. To get a full list of all the available generators, use the Rails generate command without arguments. The Rails tool doesn't just create apps and run generators. I'll look at its other uses in future screencasts. Good luck!